Today's forecast, 81 degrees under partly cloudy skies. Perfect conditions for a podcast. Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Chong. Welcome to episode 8 of Beyond the Books, where we dive into the backgrounds and stories of our future healthcare heroes. And boy, do we have a special guest tonight. He comes from Remington, Indiana. And guys, he was once an NCAA athlete. Please give a hand for Zack Patton. Zack, how are you?
I am doing fantastic. How are you, Alex?
Doing very well. All right, Zack, we have one mission today that we need to get done before this hour is up. We're going to prove that you, Zack Patton, are more than just a medical student. How does that sound?
Sounds wonderful. I need the reminder every once in a while.
Absolutely. All right, are you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right, so I know I just mentioned that you were raised in Remington, Indiana, but a lot of people may not know where Remington, Indiana is. So can you share a little bit about the town that you grew up in and kind of what your childhood was like growing up there?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just small town, Midwest. It is located directly halfway between Indianapolis and Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and exactly halfway so that when the Colts and the Bears played in the Super Bowl, we had news stations from both cities coming to interview our residents to find out who we were cheering for. And that is probably the coolest thing that happened in my childhood in Remington, Indiana, was having those news stations in town. So it was a very unique experience growing up. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everything you're doing. So got to be on your best behavior all the time. And yeah, I am very thankful for my roots and growing up where I did. But it definitely is unique compared to a large part of the world.
So kind of leading from that, you mentioned that it was a unique experience growing up in a small town like Remington. Is there something that you feel that you've learned or that you kind of understood better growing up in a small town where versus someone who might have grown up in a larger city may not realize as well?
Yeah, I think that, and I mean, I think it's definitely feasible for someone growing up in a larger city to learn these things too. But I think that just like my work ethic largely comes from growing up in a small town. Like I in the summers would have to pick up rocks. And if you don't know what that is, you walk the fields and pick up any rock that you find and throw it in the wagon behind the four-wheeler so that the farm machinery doesn't run over it and get damaged. And then they have to pay for the farm machinery to get fixed. It's cheaper to pay us to walk the fields and pick up the rocks. So yeah, like I worked in the cornfields growing up, and I definitely learned pretty early on, I think, that I wanted to make education my thing and get higher in education so that I didn't have to continue doing a lot of those chores. Not that there's anything wrong with them. They're wonderful, but it just wasn't for me. But like knowing that that's where I came from and having to do that stuff as a child definitely like put a little bit of drive in me. I think that some other people might not have.
And how, because you moved from Remington to, I think, is it Crawfordsville where Wabash is? Yeah, then to Crawfordsville, then to Bloomington, then now in Indianapolis. Was it kind of like each time you move, was it kind of a shock as you keep moving to these bigger and bigger cities?
So actually it was kind of nice because it was kind of like a step ladder. Like Remington is super tiny, and I knew that it was going to be a little bit bigger with Crawfordsville. Like most people that I was friends with at Wabash were from Indy or like Bloomington or a bigger town. They're like, oh my gosh, Crawfordsville sucks. I'm like, are you kidding me? This place is wonderful. You guys have more than a McDonald's here? This is great. But yeah, so that was nice, and just getting to get a little bit bigger. And then you go to like a Big Ten campus type of environment, and that was amazing too for 2 years. And now being in Indianapolis and living where I live, it's been super nice and kind of a smooth transition, I would say, rather than like culture shock each time. I think if I had went from Remington to Indianapolis, I would have been very scared and not left my apartment. That might be an exaggeration, but it would have been culture shock for sure.
Got you. Okay, so let's talk about your high school days at Tri-County High School. So you know how everyone has their thing. Some people are music people. Some people are like mass bowl or whatever people. You, my friend, were definitely an athletic person. Just naming some of your achievements here. You won 4 varsity letters for baseball, 3 varsity letters for basketball, and 2 varsity letters for football. That's insane. You tri-lettered in Tri-County High School for 3 different sports. So basketball we'll talk about a little bit later because you did have a deeper career for basketball. But I guess my first question is, was there one sport, football or baseball, that you preferred one over the other? Like, was there one that was more fun for you to play?
So I actually liked football better than basketball.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when I was growing up, I wanted to go to college to play football.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that my high school was too small and our football team wasn't very great, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. Yeah, that guy right there.
Yes.
Wanted to be a college quarterback back in the day.
Right.
Even got like private lessons and everything. But yeah, I just realized that with the high school that I went to, it wasn't really feasible for me to go to um, the college that I wanted to and get playing time at quarterback. And so I also loved basketball. I grew up like, I know this is getting into a topic that you haven't asked me about yet, but
That's fine. No, that's fine. No,
I played basketball since I was in kindergarten, literally like typical Indiana kid. So I also had a love for that, and as did my parents and my whole family. So I kind of shifted my focus there because I knew that that was something I was good at, and that I could potentially. I knew I wanted to be a college athlete, and I thought that was something that I could potentially do it in, and I did. Baseball, though, that's how I met my best friend in the entire world. Love him to death, and I did like baseball. I liked it a lot, but he loved it a lot more than I did, and he kept me playing it the whole way through. So yeah, baseball was definitely my least favorite, but I would say football and basketball are right up there, tied, like close. With football maybe even being number one.
So you said private lessons for football.
Yeah.
So there's literally a private instructor for quarterbacking?
So I worked with. He was a former quarterback at Illinois University. So basically, you just find people who have been at higher levels than you and just take private lessons. We did like film study. He taught me how to like throw better, like more efficiently and stuff like that. So yeah, it was really a really cool experience, to be honest. But it's kind of funny looking back that I did it for football when I ended up playing basketball in college.
Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering if the reason maybe why baseball was your least favorite sport was because of your stint as an umpire for 5 years. You were an umpire for the Tri-County Youth Baseball League.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit more about that. What was that experience like?
Well, there's only a few ways to earn money in Remington, Indiana in the summertime. Like I talked about earlier, picking up rocks and working in the fields. Um, worked at a campground once, and umpiring is another very good way to earn some money on the side. So, I mean, it was fine. I knew how to play baseball, so it was easy enough. Transition to umpire for some little kids, and it was fun. Got to hang out with them a little bit. Once again, my best friend umpired too, so we umpired a lot of games together, and nice little summer gig.
So you know that there's like umpires get a lot of heat, right? So if you're calling like balls or strikes, or maybe you didn't see something or whatever, did you ever get any heat from any like over competitive parents or one of the kids or something like that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, little youth league umpires deal with the most crap. Like parents, coaches, everybody. I can't think of like a specific story. I know I have one. But I can't think of one off the top of my head. Um, but yeah, it definitely had. Like I umpired for the least amount of time, like 5 years was umpiring, so I didn't have to work in the fields, even though I did both at the same time. But yeah, I was not. As soon as I could find something that was not umpiring to do in the summertime, I did, because it was not fun getting yelled at every Saturday for 4 hours.
What was the biggest beef with them? Was it balls and strikes, I'm guessing, or was it something else?
Place at the plate,
Mm.
mostly. Yeah, never like balls and strikes. As long as you're consistent, people don't really mind. And that's easy enough, I felt like. But the bang bang plays, people are going to see them their way, and you can't really do much to change that. So
Right. I don't think Tri-County Youth Baseball League had instant replay, did it?
we did not have that function. No, no.
Got you. And I know every umpire has their own unique style of calling a strikeout. Some people like raise their hand up. Some of them really go at it. Can you give us your best strikeout pose?
So I can give you a good one
Yes,
that I
please.
did, but it
Yes.
would be way more fun if I could give you my best friend's uncles
Oh,
that
yeah.
we
Go for it.
all the time. So Uncle Gerard is his name, and he umpired for us when we were kids. So I am not sure. I can't really see myself. So let me see if I can. Oh, there we go. Okay, so he would go, ah, And not kidding, Gus just got really excited there. He would run like several feet down the third baseline when he rung somebody up. He was not messing around.
Third
Not
baseline, like up, like forward.
like up the third baseline. Yeah, like he ran like a quarter of the way up the third baseline, ringing people up.
And that was just kind of his shtick, kind of his little tradition thing.
No, I don't know where it came from or anything like that, but we loved it.
All right, Zach. So obviously a lover of sports, and we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the last sport we haven't talked about later. But before we get to that, I actually want to play a game with you, Zach, because as one of my good friends, I must say you have one of the sweetest sweet tooths I've ever seen in my entire life. All the Ben and Jerry mini cartons in the world, fear for you. So we're going to play Rate This Dessert because I kind of want to narrow down what kind of Pacific dessert you like more than maybe another. So I went to this website from Insider Magazine of the top 17. We're only going to do 3 of the 17, but top 17 like best national chain desserts.
Okay.
And I want you to give me a score 1 to 10 and give me kind of your connoisseur adjectives and descriptions and feelings about this dessert. How does that sound?
I'm hungry, aren't you?
And hungry? All right. So let's pull up the first dessert here. Zach, have you ever been to Cracker Barrel?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever heard of the buttermilk pie?
Ooh, no, I have not.
No? Okay. So let's share the screen here. So here is Cracker Barrel's buttermilk pie. Seems to have some strawberries, some whipped cream. It has probably some fluffy, buttery flavor to it. What are your thoughts about this?
It looks wonderful. I don't see any chocolate in there, which is definitely hurting it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it is dessert, and I'm sure it's sweet, and I'm sure it would be wonderful. So I'll give it a 7.
7. All right, solid 7. That's a good score. Are you a big fan of fruit on your dessert? Because I know that's kind of a controversy for some people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you had to choose like your favorite fruit pie, like blueberry pie, pumpkin pie, what have you, what would be the fruit of choice?
Blueberry pie for sure.
Blueberry pie. All right. Very good.
Apple is a close second. Like a nice, like traditional baked apple.
Mm-hmm.
But the best pie I've ever had is a cherry pie with fresh cherries in Michigan.
Oh, okay. Was this like a restaurant, or did a friend make it?
It was like
or?
a specialized restaurant. I wish I could. It was like it was the Cherry Hut in Michigan. Advertisement for the Cherry Hut. Maybe
Got
you can
you.
get sponsored now.
Excellent. All right. So there's the first dessert there. Got a solid score of a 7. You ready for the second dessert?
Let's do it.
All right. Have you heard of the Cheesecake Factory?
Have I heard of the cheesecake?
You have, right? So what I have here is just their classic cheesecake here. But let's see what you think of this one here. So this is a traditional Cheesecake Factory, more strawberries. I don't know why I picked 2 strawberry desserts, but fresh strawberry cheesecake. So what's your general impression of cheesecakes? Because that's also kind of a controversy for some people.
Yeah, so I do like cheesecake. See, what's upsetting here, because I feel like I need to go higher than a 7, because I'm sure this is better than the last one. But because you said Cheesecake Factory and I can see it's from the Cheesecake Factory, I know there's a lot better out there.
Okay.
So,
Well, have you? So, what's your favorite cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory?
something with like chocolate and peanut butter.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
like a Reese's kind of ish.
Would you
Yeah,
say that Reese's is your favorite candy because of the chocolate and peanut butter in it?
it bounces around. I would say like Crunch bars they're like Bunch of Crunch. That's been the most
Mm.
consistent over the years.
I
Uh,
remember there is a picture of Bunch of Crunch on your Instagram. I do remember that.
is there? I didn't know that. Yeah, chocolate.
All right. So, score 1 to 10.
I'll give it a 5 because I know
5.
there's so much better out there.
Got you. Okay. So I have a feeling that this last dessert here will probably be the highest score based on what you're saying here. Have you ever had desserts from your neighborhood Applebee's?
I don't think I have.
Okay, so let's see what you think of this. I think this personally is my winner, but let's see what you think here. So let's share the screen. So this is a chocolate chip cookie sundae from Applebee's. Seems to have some chocolate chip cookies on the bottom, maybe some Oreo cookies sprinkled on top. I'm assuming that's vanilla ice cream and some chocolate syrup on there as well. What do you think?
I will give it an 8.
An
Could up
8.
it. Yeah, really, I want to say like a 7.5. To be honest with you,
Okay.
I shouldn't have went 7 out of the gate. That was a mistake on my part.
All right,
But
let's rescore. Let's rescore the buttermilk pie then.
all right, we'll go 5 buttermilk,
Okay.
6 cheesecake. This is 7.
Okay, so just a little bit better.
Yeah, just a little bit better. There's just it could upgrade another half point if it was chocolate ice cream instead of vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
And then this makes me think of is the Pizookie from BJ's restaurant. Don't know if you ever had one of those, but you should try it.
What is
It
it?
is like a pie. It's a mix between a pie, a cookie, and then it's topped with ice cream. And they are the most delicious. One of the most. It would be like a 9.
Got you. So I've described it. So we know what a 5, 6, and a 7, and maybe a 9 desserts for you. What would give it a 10? Can you describe a 10 dessert for you?
Man, a pint of Ben & Jerry's is pretty good, but I have to have the whole pint.
Okay, and Pacific flavor?
Yeah, I can't think of it. As soon as you brought up desserts, I was like, I'm not gonna be able to think of this. It's the one with the Jimmy Kimmel on the front of it because
Oh, okay.
proceeds go to camp. So, little pitch for that.
Got you. So you said Jimmy Kimmel, right? Or Jimmy Fallon, I'm sorry.
Jimmy Kimmel, I think.
Jimmy Kimmel, okay. Yeah, so Jimmy Kimmel, Ben & Jerry's ice cream. That sits on the top.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for rating these desserts. We are going to go back to athletics here for a little bit because I want to really dig deep into your basketball career here because it's a long one. So you, as you said before, you've started since kindergarten and you had some really good years at Tri-County High School for Cavaliers. And I guess my first question is, so your coach, so Coach Gredencourt, is that, I hope I'm pronouncing his name.
Coach Shear now. It was Coach Shear. Coach Gredencourt is the current coach, but it was Coach Shear when I was in high school.
Oh, it was Coach Shear. Okay, so Coach Shear. So was there something that Coach Shear taught you while you were playing basketball at Tri-County High School?
I mean, there was a lot of things. Yeah, he taught me. I honestly, my favorite thing about Coach Shear, he worked with my brother and I a lot. But my favorite thing about him was that he would just let me stay in the gym for as long as I wanted to be in the gym. Yeah, freshman year of high school, I had some family stuff go down and made me not necessarily want to be in the house that much. And so what I started doing is I would just, I'd have school, I'd have practice, and then I would just stay after practice for 2-3 hours and shoot, work on my game, get better. He would stay there with me. He would just rebound, pass me the ball. He would go finish up work if he wanted to, and then he'd come back down. But he never once kicked me out of the gym and told me I had to go. Never once. And I attribute a lot of my success in basketball to that, just like him giving me the gym and letting me go at it. And he did teach me a lot too, taught me a lot about the game and a lot about like individual skills and moves and stuff. But I think just his willingness and selflessness to always be there was really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the coach-player relationship is just so important because, I mean, of course, yeah, they're there to teach you basketball. I mean, that is what their job description tells you to do. But there's such a life aspect to it as well as I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess going off of that coaching perspective as well. So, kids growing up watching basketball these days, they're seeing the likes of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, those kind of players that just are taught to just rain threes as much as they can, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you kind of notice a change of style of basketball between when you grow up and the era now for the kids growing up right now? Do you kind of notice a difference there?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not too in tune with how, I don't know. I don't watch a lot of NBA or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I really think it just depends on the coach. I think if they're being taught correctly, no, there's not, because if you're 6 years old and throwing up, this might be really old school with me, but if you're 6 years old and throwing up threes all the time, you're just going to ruin your form. That was what I was taught all along, and I'm not a great shooter, so maybe I'm not wasn't taught the right stuff. But yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
So if you weren't a shooter, what was kind of your like specialty or like skill set, or like what were you bringing to for your team, do you think?
Yeah. So high school and college, it's a different answer. In high school, I could score. I was pretty good at scoring. I could get to the basket because I was bigger than everybody else. Um, and so I was pretty good at that. I had a pretty good mid-range jump shot, like pull-up jump shot. And then I just got just enough threes in to make them respect that and like actually guard me. In college, I couldn't practice shooting as much because I had schoolwork to do. And so my shot kind of went away and people just backed off me. And so I couldn't really get to the basket as much. Wasn't as much of an offensive threat, but I found my niche playing defense. So my job was just to guard the other team's best player and hold them to as few points as possible. And I got pretty good at it until I got injured and couldn't keep up. Couldn't keep up with them anymore. So,
Got
yeah.
you. So when I went through the Tri-County records here, I did notice that I think it was in 2013 when your team won the Kitchen Classic. What do you remember about? Because I have a belief that tournament style basketball have a different atmosphere than just like a regular season game.
Yeah.
Could you just kind of describe what that atmosphere was like for you?
Yeah, it was super fun. So it's just like it basically was like a Christmas time classic. So a Christmas time tournament essentially. But that was actually my senior year, and it was really special because my brother was on the same team. He made varsity as a freshman, and so we got to like do it with him too. But yeah, it was a super fun run. I had one of my best games of my career against Rossville was the team name in the semifinal, and it went to like double overtime. I ended up scoring 32 points.
Wow.
Won obviously, and it was very, very cool. It was very fun. The gym was just packed because there was a game after us, like waiting to be played. And everyone was cheering. It was yeah. There's nothing like it. Like Indiana high school basketball, nothing like it at all. Yeah.
So you mentioned it was overtime. So I mean, you've already been through 4 quarters. You're probably exhausted, but you got to keep going for that last overtime. So what was something that your team did to kind of keep you guys motivated and keep you guys energized for those last however long overtime was?
Back then, I think it was just like preparing and practice. We ran all the time, ran a lot. Every time before we got a water break, we did some running drill, and it most of the time wasn't very fun. So I think that we were very, very in shape. That was definitely like the most in shape that I've ever been. Like even in college, college season is just longer, and you can't really run as much as you do in high school. So I would go back and help the high school guys practice when I was in college, and I would just see him run, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this sucked so bad when I was in here. Like, we don't have to do this anymore. Thank God. Wow. Yeah. But we were definitely in shape. Coach Shear kept us in shape.
And recently, you were named to the 2018 Tri-County Hall of Fame. What did it mean for you to get that recognition and now have your name in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool. It's definitely like something that you kind of think about as a kid growing up and like, working, at all the different sports that you're playing. And you hope that you can make it to that level one day, just like watching the guys play ahead of you get inducted, like watching the guys that you were big fans of, So yeah, I mean, it was really special. It was really fun. I will say that the one thing that I would like to mention about my basketball career is that
Sure.
I am happiest that it led me to Wabash to get a good education so that I could get to where I am now. I think that is what basketball did for me more than anything else was I knew that I wanted to play in college, so I kept my grades up so I could get in wherever I could play. And then when I got to college, I fell in love with, medicine, and the rest was history. So I'm very thankful for basketball for that. All of the accolades are wonderful, of course, and it was really special. But yeah, I really think basketball for where it ended up getting me.
Right. It definitely opened doors for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. So I guess based on what you said there, maybe the most iconic day for you in basketball was signing day when you got to sign on to
Oh,
Wabash. And You're already smiling. There's actually a YouTube video out there of your signing day. So let's take a quick look here at your signing day, right here. Have you ever watched yourself on
Oh,
this video?
I definitely have. Yep.
You definitely have. Okay. So let's see this here.
There's so many views, everyone. 28 views.
All right, good. That's what we're going for.
There's your dad, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've actually played basketball since I was in kindergarten, so
Since
I've always had
kindergarten.
that love for the game. Definitely, my parents have definitely instilled that in me, and yeah, I mean, I've always been in the gym, shooting, working on my game as much as I can, and it feels amazing to have it finally pay off, have my dreams come true.
You know, Zach kind of talked about this being a goal
that
for
your
him
coach?
as a young man, and to see him accomplish those goals is all it's very fulfilling, and just to see that come to fruition makes you feel good about yourself and your basketball program, but most importantly, special feeling for Zach.
So what did it mean for you? Because I guess based on what your coach and yourself are saying, it was a big goal for you to be able to sign on to a college and be able to get that opportunity there. What did it mean for you putting that pen to paper?
Yeah, dude, it was honestly a lot. Not a lot of people from like my hometown, with the school being as small as it is and just not having a lot of exposure, are able to play sports in college. So he was huge. It literally was a dream come true. And it was really weird when I got to Wabash, and a lot of the guys were just like, oh yeah, like it was just fun. It's just fun playing. That's the only reason why I'm here. Like they didn't make a big deal about it at all, but it was a big deal for me. It really was. And yeah, so that day was very special. The haircut is very special that I had then too. Thinking about bringing that back at some point. But yeah, it was amazing. It was a great day.
Awesome, man. I mean, I'm so glad you were able to, at such a young age, be able to accomplish one of your biggest dreams there. So that's awesome that you got to do that.
Thanks.
Let's move forward here to the Wabash years. Did you know you had an ESPN.com page? This was very surprising to me.
I did not.
Yeah, let me share this really quickly. You
Yeah.
actually have an ESPN page all to yourself, Zach.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, there's no information on there. However, uh, you do. There is a link that you can go to your own ESPN page there. So I thought that was pretty cool. Anywho, so let's see. We're on the team for 3 years here. Let me pull up your profile picture. And what was really impressive to me, Zach, was that you didn't gain or lose a single pound in all of the 3 years of Wabash basketball. That's very impressive, Zach.
Yeah, no comment.
Yeah, no comment. Okay, fair enough. So you go into Wabash. You had this illuminating career at Tri-County High School. How was it kind of different stepping from Tri-County High School to an NCAA kind of environment?
Yeah, it was a lot different. It was a wake up call. People are a lot better. Everyone is the best player, and a lot like guys are 4 years older than me too in some cases, you know. So my goal of my freshman year was just to travel. That was all I wanted to do. But so we actually had a different coach. So the coach that coached me at Wabash isn't the coach that recruited me. The coach that recruited me got fired in the spring of my senior year of high school. So that was also different. My goal was to, like I said, to travel, and I ended up being able to play quite a bit. So that I exceeded my goal, and I was really happy about that. That was probably the year I played the most, to be honest with you. But like I said, I kind of found a niche in the team, and I was able to, because of kind of the work ethic and the running and whatnot that I talked about before, with me growing up, make it through the fall workouts, because a lot of people didn't do that. We started the year with 40 people on our roster, and when we played our first game, we had 14. So,
wow.
Yep, there were 9 people in my class that came in, and 4 of us made it through, and I was the only one that played my sophomore year. So I attribute a lot of being able to make it through Wabash and the Wabash basketball experience to growing up how I did.
Gotcha. Okay, so you were able to play for Wabash for 3 years here. You found your niche there, and eventually you were playing. Yes, you said you were playing in some games. what was kind of the atmosphere like playing in a NCAA game? Because it's definitely it's kind of a higher pressure environment than a high school basketball gym per se.
I mean, you would think that, but it's Division III basketball. Wabash had a wonderful crowd, actually. Like, Wabash was a fun place to play. We had awesome fans. But a lot of places you go, there's like 20 people in the stands, and you're not really playing for the crowd. It's different. If you're playing to play against guys who are really good, and you're playing to win, it's very different. I would say the environment was much less intense than high school, to be honest with you, but the skill level was like head and shoulders above. It was so much better, and it was, somewhat more. It was more fun for that reason. Just like guys that were better than you are just trying to kind of keep up. That's fun, and trying to get better and keep up with them.
So I heard, speaking of the fans, and even though it's a less fan atmosphere, I did hear a story that sometimes the fans would shout, "Let Patton shoot."
Yep.
Yeah. So what's the story behind that?
The story behind that is, like I said, I was a defensive player, and my coach, like I said, didn't recruit me, and so he just thought I was, this hill jack from Remington, Indiana, and played the offense.
Yeah.
Maybe he was right. Who knows? But so I was basically told to not shoot the ball unless I got a layup. And so my pledge brothers thought it would be funny if they showed up to a game with a big sign that said "Let Patton shoot," like this big cardboard sign. There's a picture of him somewhere with it, and they would chant it at our home games. So it didn't help at all. I didn't get to shoot anymore, but they did their best.
So did you like have like a little internal smile or smirk
Oh,
when
it
you
was
saw that sign?
hilarious.
That's really funny. Yeah. So as you said, like you had this 3 years. All these players, like the talent level was just so much higher, and on top of that, you had injuries to deal with as well. So talk to me a little bit, because even though you kind of knew it was going to be a higher challenge for you, it's got to be a little bit hard going from like being one of the best players and being a really high ranked player on your high school team to now that you're kind of more it was a lot harder to find your footing in the Wabash basketball team. Talk to me a little bit about that. Was that frustrating, or like did you learn a lot from it? What was that experience like for you?
I mean, I think both, and I think that I have an easy analogy that can quickly explain it to everyone who's watching this, including you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just like the transition from undergrad to med school. You're put into a population that is, excelled at that thing for their whole lives too, and everyone's now on a level playing field, and you see who measures up. So that's exactly what it was like, and I think that honestly, having that experience in basketball helped me kind of transition to med school and just like realize. I learned my place a lot faster, I think, than I did when I was playing basketball, because it was really frustrating. It really was. Thinking that you are this, but not necessarily being seen as that by the coaching staff or by, your teammates, whoever. So.
I mean, Zach, you have a lot to be proud of. You had a wonderful basketball career. I mean, in case you didn't know, not a lot of players make it to NCAA, even if it's Division III. Like a lot of players don't make it to that level. So,
yeah, I'm proud of it.
Yeah, plus you made it to the Hall of Fame at your high school. I mean, there's not many people who get to say that. So, that's really cool. So I actually do have a question for you. Let's stop sharing here. Oops, that didn't work. So this is Hot Takes Corner, where you kind of share your hot takes to a spicy question. So Zach, here's my question. So there's been kind of a debate lately amongst the NCAA, not just basketball players, but any athlete really, of whether athletes should be able to earn money based on what they contribute to the school. So recently, the NCAA allows players to earn a little bit money based on their name, image, and likeness, as long as the university is not directly paying that money. So people who support this would say athletics is bringing a lot of money to the school. It's kind of unfair that if they sell this kind of merchandise because of this player, that it's going straight to university and the player doesn't benefit at all. But there's other people who would say that, they're already getting the scholarship. They're already getting a lot of stuff paid for them already. Why should we give more money to the athletes? And the school is spending so much money on athletes already. Like, why is athletes a huge priority? Where as an ex-NCAA player kind of fit on the spectrum here? What's your take on this?
Yeah, so I think that where it's at, like the new ruling that they put in place is incredibly appropriate. I think that's what it should be. That's where it should stay. So I didn't get it, like being in D3, there's no athletic scholarships. So I was only on academic scholarships. And, that was fine. That was more than enough for me. But yeah, I think that I have that exact opinion that you shared, that, at the bigger schools, their payment is their scholarship. They're going to school for free and they can do with that what they want. Yes, they definitely are generating way more revenue for the school than what they're getting back in a scholarship. But I think that that's kind of almost like the paying your dues part of it. I think that if you're good enough, at the same time, if you're good enough to be like Zion Williamson, get a shoe deal when you're a freshman in college, yeah, do it. Absolutely. That should be 100% allowed. There's no reason why that shouldn't be allowed. I think that there's so many stories of like college players going to school and being so poor that, they can't buy dinner. And that's horrible. That should never happen. Yeah, that's kind of where I stand on it, I guess.
All right. Hot take served. Thank you, Zach, for your insight into this question here. All right, Zach, let's move to another topic. Let's get out of the athletic world and let's enter to another big part of your Wabash days here, and that is your days at Beta Theta Pi. So first of all, how out of all of the fraternities at Wabash University, how did you end up in Beta, and why did you choose Beta over all the other ones?
So at Wabash, the way it works is there's it was before I was even in college, actually. It was in like spring break of high school, essentially. They have like a weekend called Honor Scholar Weekend, and you go and you like compete for scholarships, but at the same time, you can rush the houses. And I actually didn't think I wanted to be in a fraternity. I didn't know I wanted to be in a fraternity at all. I didn't know anyone who was in a fraternity, so I had no experience with it. A lot of people have family or whatever. And I was just following around some friends that I knew from a high school that close to mine, and they got bids. And so I was like, well, shoot, I might like want to try to get a bid too. And I got a bid and I accepted it. And then I showed up there the next fall. So they're honestly, I like the guys. I thought they were cool. But I just kind of like stumbled into it, I think, honestly. It was not a conscious decision at all that I made.
And you had quite a bit of leadership roles within that fraternity as well. You started off as scholarship chair. I believe you're the one that kind of implemented the study tables idea, where if someone is struggling, they kind of work with someone to get their grades up a little bit. And you kind of followed that legacy to when you were the president as well. You're kind of known to your main mission here was really to boost up the GPA of Beta and kind of maintain it to a high standard. So I guess you didn't have to do that. So why did you choose the academic side of Beta to be kind of your main focus during your presidency?
Yeah, so there were two sides. It was the academic side, but then it was also like a hazing side too. Mm-hmm. And I'll be very upfront about that. So yeah, that's honestly, it was probably more the hazing side that I went into to try to be president. And I think we made a lot of headway in that, and just became more transparent with the administration, and lessened our hazing down to zero while I was president. And I'm incredibly proud of that. And the reason why I did that was because when I was a freshman, I almost dropped out 3 times of Beta. I almost quit. It was just, things were being done that shouldn't have been done, and they aren't done anymore, so we don't need to talk about them. But the academic side of things, the reason why I made that an emphasis was because when I joined, one of the big reasons why I joined was because we were second on campus in GPA, both for freshmen and for the whole house. And as I was a sophomore, and then my freshman year we were still like decent, but then sophomore year we dropped to like 5th or 6th, and I was like, this is not okay. This is not good enough at all. Like we need to do something to fix this. And
How many fraternities were there before I let you continue there?
like 8 or 9.
Oh, okay. Got you. Okay.
So yeah, we were down there. And it wasn't good enough, in my opinion. So, and then, I mean, also what is the downside of helping people with their GPA? There's literally none. Like there's no downside. So, I mean, I was definitely trying to help the house and help us get like better recruits the next years. It was also just kind of a house pride thing, and then also like helping individuals, you know, and helping them to kind of improve themselves and maintain good habits, I guess.
Got you. So I kind of want to read a quote that one of your fraternity brothers said about you during this time, because I think it was really sweet what he said. So, no one likes the fraternity of the house because they have to enforce the rules, especially the rules that people don't like. Zack did a great job of finding the sweet spot between an authority figure and a friend who understood the situation. Our house at the time was changing a lot, and we were being pushed to do things differently from our advisors and nationals, and most everyone in the house was against it. But Patton had to act as a liaison between the two sides, and he did a fantastic job of it. So what kind of wanted to ask you from this was that, you know, you had two sides kind of pressuring you a little bit. You had the national side saying, hey, like, we got to keep the Beta name proud here. And you have all of these fraternity brothers, your peers, saying, why are we doing these rules? Could you just kind of talk to me about balancing the two voices in your ear here?
Yeah. So being president, I definitely learned how to almost be two people. Almost like in that quote, it talks about being like the authoritarian, but also the friend. And you just kind of have to know what time to be each. But in terms of balancing the two sides, I think that just being able to listen to what people are telling you and articulate the other side, and also you know, just kind of going back to your fraternity, they understood that some of the things needed to change. And we're pretty receptive to, luckily they were pretty receptive to like us wanting to better the house. And like after they actually heard why things were being done, I think a lot of times that is what is missed, like the why. You think of just all these rules that are being put in place, and people don't understand the why sometimes because they aren't being heard, and so they refuse to listen to the other side. I think that's honestly the biggest thing I learned, is just to be able to listen to both sides, articulate what they're saying back to them in a way that they'll agree with it, and then convey that to the other side.
It's just a clear channel of communication, really.
Yeah.
Got you. So you left a great mark on Beta, Zack. So during 2018, you were named the best fraternity president of Wabash, which I thought was pretty awesome. Your freshman class had the best GPA out of all of the other freshman classes.
Very proud of that.
And your fraternity won the Senior Impact Award as well. So there's a saying that, like, you know, you finish your job, your presidency is over, and you just kind of look back and see what you're able to accomplish there. Could you just kind of explain what that kind of felt like to kind of be able to look back and, you know, hours of long work, lots of communication, settling differences, what have you, and just being able to look back and see what your brothers were able to accomplish?
Yeah, it was really special. I had a lot of wonderful pledge brothers too that also had really high up leadership positions in the college. We had the president of, student body president of Wabash was in my pledge class. The Sphinx Club president of Wabash was in my class. Like, we had a lot of really awesome guys, and I think we did leave a huge mark on Wabash. I'm really proud of that. And I think the coolest thing looking back, actually knowing what's happened, is that our freshmen have continued to be either 1 or 2 in GPA, and Wabash has maintained their spot, you know, in the top 2 or 3, Beta has maintained their spot in the top 2 or 3 fraternities on campus. And so knowing that those policies that I put in place, that the people who have come after me, those matter to them too, and that they've maintained them and that they're working, that is, you know, cooler than any accolade I think that you could be given.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of the legacy that you leave behind, kind of a deal, isn't it? All right, Zack. Let's move on from Wabash here, and let's talk about yet another big passion that you have had, especially in the past few years. Um, what can you tell me about Flying Horse Camp?
Whew, I don't know if you want to leave that an open-ended question because I can tell you everything about it. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. Okay,
Uh,
no, let's start with this here. So it was in Mount Gilead, Ohio. Mount Gilead, Ohio, excuse me. And so if I understood correctly, it's a camp where really ill children around the Ohio area just basically get to spend, I don't know if it was a week or 2 weeks, but basically get to spend um, doing fun activities and just kind of forgetting about their illness a little bit and just kind of be kids.
yeah,
Would you say that's a fair description of Flying
that's
Horse?
spot on. I've done a great job being your friend and advocating. It's 1 week that they spend there. There's different weeks. So and each week is like a group of illnesses. So there'll be like a cardiac week, there'll be like a hemonc week, there'll be a room GI week, and so that way too, in addition to just getting the forget their illness and be kids, they also get to be with kids who have the same thing that they have potentially,
Yeah,
and that has been really powerful too for some kids.
yeah.
To be able to meet someone for the first time that have their illness, and not feel alone. Yeah.
So Zach, I don't know if Flying Horse made you memorize these values. Do you remember the 10 values of Flying Horse by chance?
We never had to memorize them. I I don't, to be honest.
Okay,
I
that's
can
all
recite a few of them, but I'm not going to be able to Sean Bueller it and get all of them down.
right. So out of the few values that you do remember, is there one that kind of sticks out to you that, I didn't think about that, but I kind of want to apply that value, not just inside camp, but outside of camp as well?
Yeah, I think it's like a little thanks goes a long way or something like
Yep,
that.
that is one of them. Yep.
And that was one that kind of like going into camp, because I went into camp with a very different perspective than I came out of camp with. It was something that I hadn't really ever thought about before, and have since made put kind of an emphasis on it in my life. And you never realize the difference that a little thank you note, or like, yeah, just like a little note to someone on when they're having a bad day means to them. And I've kind of learned that when I'm having a bad day, that the one thing that I can do that will 100% cheer me up is help make someone else's day better. And so how do you do that? Little things goes a long way, yeah, I think that is that's the perfect value that to answer the question that you asked.
And what can you tell me about wish sticks? Because I asked one of your camp friends about this, and it seems like a really cool tradition that you guys do every year. So what is the wish sticks activity?
So the wish sticks are at opening campfire. So we have an opening campfire and a closing campfire every week. And at opening campfire, so at closing campfire, when campers are about to leave the next day, the next morning they wake up and they leave. So at closing campfire, they write down on this little wooden popsicle stick a wish that they have. And it's a wish that they have for basically like the next camper who gets it, because the next week at opening campfire, they get to draw these wish sticks out of the big bucket that they were dumped in at the last closing campfire, and they read them, and we go around and we read them out loud, and a few of them out loud, and then we burn them, and we say that the wishes can only come true if they're put in the campfire and get to go up. But it's a really cool way for kids to kind of get to relate to one another like throughout the weeks, and get to almost like share their camp experience, and like almost like not warn kids, but like give them an idea of what's to come their upcoming week at camp.
Is it true that one of the wish sticks said, "I wish I can pie Zach in the face," or something like that? That's kind of funny because there's like millions of wishes that these kids can make, and the one they chose was to be able to pie you in the face.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Is there one wish stick that you personally remember that kind of impacted you based on what the kid made?
I mean, there's so many of them that I can remember, but I will tell you that the one that every single time, I don't think that they're ruined if you tell them out loud, so I think I can tell you what my wish was.
Okay.
Every single time that I got to write in a wish stick, I wrote, I wish that every kid who needs camp can get camp.
Mm-hmm.
And just being at camp and like seeing the difference in kids' lives that it makes, that this 1 week or like 5 days can make in a kid's life, it quickly became a passion of mine to be able to spread the word, the good news of camp to as many people as I could, and like try to get more, kids, more volunteers, more of everyone, more of good people involved with it. So that was my wish, and I think it came true. or
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The wish of just having every kid be able to, every sick kid be able to experience a week of just being themselves and just kind of forget their situation for a little bit. Yeah, that's an awesome wish to have. So, um, another question I have for you about this camp, you mentioned in a Wabash magazine, I'll just read the quote out. So you said, "I discovered that I wanted to be a doctor after that summer at Flying Horse Farms. Seeing the difference I can make in the lives of children as a camp counselor was incredibly inspiring and the best feeling I had ever experienced in my life. I knew that I could make an even bigger difference as their physician." So would you credit your experiences at Flying Horse Farms as the reason why you're pursuing medicine today?
500%. Yeah. 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 I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian for the longest time in my life. And that's actually why I went to Wabash, is because I wanted to, pursue graduate education to be a vet.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I didn't necessarily want to do that after shadowing there for like a summer. And then I shadowed for some orthopedic surgeons, and I hated it a lot and thought, I don't want to do medicine either. What do I want to do? And then I went to this camp, partly because they had a dog program there. And I
Oh, okay.
thought that I could kind of like wiggle my way into it being like a vet thing too, if I got back into that. But
Yeah.
then I also would get to hang out with kids and do this fun summer camp. And then I ended up absolutely falling in love with the kids, with camp, with medicine, with, all of the above. And so I 500% attribute my being in med school and goal to become a doctor to camp.
And what is it about camp that you like so much? Because this is not the first camp you worked at. You worked at Caboose Lake. You worked at Fountain Park. I can't pronounce the third word of that. But this is not the first camp you're working at. So what is it about camp that you just love so much?
Yeah, I think it's like you said in that quote, I think, or like I said in that quote, I guess, it is truly the difference that you see in kids' lives in a week. And that it is truly a difference in their lives, because I worked there for 5 years, so I'll see kids one year after another. I've had an experience before where I'm just kind of walking through, like, it's called the Wellness. It's like our camp hospital that we have, for kids, to get their meds or get checked up or whatever. I was just like walking through the Wellness on the day of check-in. So the kids are checking in with their nurses for the week and like getting ready to start camp. And I had heard like this kid yelled, "Zach, Zach, hey, Zach," and like ran up, jumped in my arms, gave me this giant hug. And to be honest with you, I didn't recognize who the kid was. And I felt so bad, but I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that, you can make that big of a difference in someone's life to where they remember you literally a year later. And I didn't realize that I was, doing anything for them. And so yeah, I think it's just that type of place. And then also it's just so open and welcoming. And I think that you get to be your true self at camp too. Like I get to be me, I get to be fun and silly, and I get to be the true Zach when I'm at camp too. And so, it's fun for me, and it's fun for the difference that I get to make in other people's lives as well.
Yeah, it's something about nature, man, that just kind of lets you um, explore a less stressed out side of you. I don't know if that's quite the phrase to use, but kind of that side of things. But it was not only your career and some inspiration that you got out from this camp as well. You actually met your current girlfriend from camp as well. So we hear about these like summer camp romances like all the time. And the thing about them is that for most of them, yeah, they're flings, but I would say at least 3/4 to 80% of them, it was just that. It was just a fling. But you and Maddie made it work out where it has evolved to more than that. So could you just talk about how did you meet Maddie at this camp, and how did this romance kind of build beyond the typical summer camp fling?
So we actually worked at camp for my first summer. She worked at camp too. It was her first full summer on staff. And we both had significant others at the time. And so honestly didn't really know each other, I don't think. I think she would agree with that. But then the second summer, I was single and she still had a boyfriend, but was kind of on the rocks. And we worked closer. We worked on the same team instead of being in cabins, like very separate from each other. And I quickly kind of was like, there's something about this girl, you know, she's
Mm-hmm.
kind of cute and she's very sweet. There might be something here. And she ended up breaking up with her boyfriend pretty early on at camp. And I, 3 weeks later, got the courage. Camp is 6 weeks long. 3 weeks later, got the courage to tell her that I liked her and asked her out on a date. And so we went on our first date, and it was horrible, to be honest with you.
Oh,
But
oh no.
ended up being, it was horrible because of my planning.
Oh, I see. Okay.
This elaborate date, and nothing went as planned, per usual for my plans. That's a good story too. And but ended up being wonderful. We ended up just having a picnic at a park, and then I would like to say happily ever after, but actually she went to Charleston, South Carolina for grad school, and I was kind of like, hey, let's like make it work. I went down there to visit her once, and she was kind of like, oh, I don't really want to do long distance. So
Mm-hmm.
we took a break for a year, and then we met back up at camp the next year. And once again, kind of dated during camp, I guess. And then camp ended. She went back to Charleston, and I was kind of like, hey, come on, like we can do this. And she was like, I still don't really know. But then the next year, I finally got her. The next year. So we dated once again, kind of dated throughout camp. And then I was like, I really think we can do this. She was in Charleston for her last year, and she ended up coming to visit me in Bloomington in med school. And so I think as soon as she came to visit me, I knew that I finally had her. And we've been together ever since. It'll be 2 years in August, and she's wonderful and amazing and beautiful. And I love that I met her at camp, because I think that she knows who my like the true me is, and I think I know the true her is. And it's that having that like powerful experience together and having that in common is really special.
Something about camp, man.
I
Somehow
know.
these like romantic vibes just not only amongst, well, okay, it was a little kid camp, so maybe that doesn't work as well. But like at least at the high school camp that I worked at, like there's like crushes amongst campers, there's crushes amongst counselors. It's something about camp that just
Oh
doesn't,
yeah.
that's not able to explain in words, but like there's something there. So
It's a vulnerable place. Everyone's vulnerable, and everyone's, you know, welcoming and kind of putting their whole heart out there, and you're your best self at camp. That's what she used to tell me when she would gently turn me down, is that, how do I even know what you're like in the real world? And I was like, babe, this is what I'm like in the real world. Like, I hope this is who I want to be in the real world. Yeah, but for a lot of people, you know, it's hard to be that vulnerable in the real world. So I think that's what it is.
yeah, and I guess it's hard to transition. What was that transition like from hanging out inside a very wonderful camp to quote unquote the real world? Because I think she mentioned it too, that it wasn't until she wasn't for certain until she hung out with you at a wedding during the same summer outside of camp. So
Yeah.
what's that transition like, kind of?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was very like I don't know, something about just like her. I think I knew it was going to work. I just knew it would, and I knew that she was someone I wanted in my life. But I think that yeah, I don't know. I think that was a bigger deal for her. Honestly, it's just like seeing. I think that I am probably overly goofy at camp, and I think that her seeing that I can be a serious person too, and like have a little bit less extroverted side, I would say, for sure. It can kind of just like chill inside for the weekend instead of going and saying hi to everyone walking by on the sidewalk. Yeah, I think her like being able to see that side of me, I guess, kind of sold it to her. But it really wasn't a big transition for me at all, to be honest with you, like moving from camp out. Yeah.
All right, Zach. We are out of time. But what a fun interview, Zach. This was so good to kind of go through the backstory here. Did a lot of cool things. This is the most jam-packed note sheet that I've had so far, because there's just so much information to kind of capture in an hour or so of podcasting. But you did a great job. So thank you very much for making this episode happen.
Hey, you did a great job, man. You did wonderful research. Can't believe you found that video on YouTube of my signing. That's ridiculous. Really took me back there. But yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Sorry that Gus is barking in the background.
That's all right. Gus is his dog for those who can't see the screen here.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we have done it. We have definitely proved without a doubt that Zack Patton is more than just a medical student. Oh, look at that dog. Is more than just a medical student. Thank you guys very much for joining us on this episode today. Please check out the other episodes as well. We will have another episode hopefully next week. So have a good night, everybody, and thanks for listening.